So this planet-sized laptop sat beside me is the MacBook Pro 16 with Apple's M1 Max chipset stuffed inside. It's the most advanced MacBook you could buy in 2022 and also the absolute bloody hugest by some distance. Seriously, hoy this thing at a rhinoceros and chances are you'll probably put out the horny bastard's lights for good and then also be arrested for murdering a critically endangered species, so maybe don't do that. Oh, and this is also the most expensive MacBook of 2022, of course, to the tune of 2,400 quid if you want the basic version with the M1 Pro chipset, or over 4 grand if you upgrade to this bugger here, the beefiest M1 Max model. Now, I've been using the MacBook Pro 16 with the M1 Max as my full-time video editor machine for the past few months to see how it stacks up. So here's my full in-depth review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, the MacBook Pro 16 is almost 17 millimeters thick, it's 14 inches wide, and it weighs over 2 kilos, so overall it's about as portable as a concrete elephant. If you want a laptop to actually slip inside of a backpack and carry around all day, well, you'll definitely want to look at alternatives. This thing was made to live on a desk and maybe occasionally be lugged into a kitchen or a bedroom or something. Oh, and Apple offers some incredible variety when it comes to the color choices too. Chances are you'll find yourself absolutely torn between silver or space grey. Absolutely fiendish decision, that. Still, the silvery chassis is proven to be a proper tough nut. There's still no signs of wear or tear after several months, even with hyperactive kittens regularly using it as a makeshift scratching post / chew toy. The MacBook Pro 16's light coloured frame does show up greasy prints and muck rather easily, but luckily just a quick buffing and it's as good as new. And no, I didn't bung 20 quid at Apple for its polishing cloth, I'm just using this free OnePlus one I got. I know, right? What a f***ing cheapskate. And thankfully the connectivity has improved over that original smaller M1 MacBook Pro. You've now got 3 Thunderbolt ports to play with, split between the 2 edges, plus an HDMI port. So you can get up to 4 external displays connected at once if that's your bag. And over here on the right edge, you also have an SDXC card slot as well, which is incredibly handy when you're transferring whopping great massive files from your camera to the MacBook Pro 16. And yeah, I really would have liked some full-sized USB ports on the MacBook Pro 16 as well, so I can hook up some of my older peripherals and external drives without having to use one of these freaking expensive and annoying adapter thingies. But here ho, it's just doubly annoying because of course that chunky chassis is more than large enough to house several full-size USB ports. Now the MacBook Pro 16's backlit chiclet keyboard is squashed slightly into the center by those speaker grills, but it is still a respectable size. I adapted really fast and I don't struggle at all with my touch typing. There's no sponginess or other issues here, but that key travel is incredibly shallow, especially considering the size of this bloody laptop. It's actually comparable to something like the detachable keyboard from a Microsoft Surface Pro. Still, none of the keys have magically just stopped working a couple of months on, which is an immediate improvement over a couple of MacBooks that I've owned in the past. It does still seem really strange not having the old touch bar up at the top of the keyboard, of course, although it was woefully unsupported overall, and the only time I really ever used it was in Final Cut Pro to skim through a timeline, so overall, can't say I miss it too much. I definitely prefer having physical function buttons on there. The only annoyance here is that you can't control the brightness of the keyboard backlighting via those function keys anymore, so now you have to slog your way through the macOS settings instead. As with the previous M1 MacBook Pro, you've got a Touch ID fingerprint sensor built into the power button. No issues there at all, this works a charm unless your fingers are super greasy. So you might want to give your tips a quick wipe after working your way through a KFC bargain bucket. And I gotta say, it is a little weird that you still don't get a face unlock option here on the MacBook Pro 16. It's basically the exact opposite of what you get on an iPhone. As for the touchpad, well, that is an absolute beast. One of the biggest I've ever used on any laptop ever, complete with pressure-sensitive mouse clicks and multi-touch gesture support. And I've got absolutely no complaints there at all, to the point where I'd quite happily just use that touchpad full-time and not bother with a mouse. Now, another highlight of the MacBook Pro 16 M1 Max is that 16.2-inch Liquid Retina Mini LED display. This enormous panel gives me enough space to comfortably work on my Final Cut projects without having to hook up an external monitor, while the 3456 by 2234 pixel resolution keeps everything looking nice and crisp, if not quite as sharp as a 4K panel. Colours are accurately reproduced as you'd expect from an Apple display, with 100% coverage of the sRGB gamut and 84% of the Adobe RGB on the default XDR settings. There's no anti-glare curtain on this thing, but the peak brightness is just powerful enough that you can just about see what you're doing outdoors working on a sunshiny day. In my colorimeter test on that manual brightness at the peak level, it hit around 450 nits. And yes, I have lugged this thing out into the garden in slightly sunnier, warmer times, and it was absolutely fine as long as you don't try streaming a moody Marvel movie or anything like that. However, as with other MacBooks, I have found that the auto brightness can be a bit balky at times, so I do make full use of the manual brightness control function keys, which thankfully are present and correct. And you also have an adaptive refresh option that scales up to 120Hz on supported apps if you can find some. Now, you may remember, of course, the internet somewhat predictably lost its collective shit when Apple first unveiled the MacBook Pro 16, and we copped a load of that slightly ridiculous notch up top. And to be perfectly honest though, it hasn't really bothered me at all. It hasn't intruded on any of my macOS apps the entire time I've been using this laptop, unlike that horribly obnoxious and ugly notch on the iPhone display. I mean, is it ridiculous? Yes, undoubtedly, but then so is dropping $4 on a friggin' laptop, so what are you gonna do? And actually housed up there in that chunky old notch is a fresh new 1080p camera, which is really, really good for your Skypey, zoomy shenanigans. As you can see there is a little dinky green LED which flashes on when the webcam is in use, so at least you're aware of what's going on because there's no kind of privacy slider. And as you can see here, even if you end up Skyping with some sort of incredibly bright light source like a window behind you, the webcam is not fazed by that at all. You'll still come through nice and bright and clear. And you also have a built-in triple mic array here on the MacBook Pro 16, which does a pretty decent job of picking up on your voice. Even if you're a fair distance away from the laptop, you have to move around, though it does also pick up everything else that is going on in the room, so you might want to find somewhere with a bit of privacy. The MacBook Pro 16 with M1 Max also serves up 6 built-in speakers which combine to spaff out impressive stereo sound. On top volume there is no distortion, vocals are crystal clear, and you can hear everything that is going on even in a noisy place like a busy kitchen. Top stuff all around. So now let's hit on the big one, performance, and the Apple MacBook Pro 16 comes with a choice of 2 chipsets, the M1 Pro or the M1 Max, which are both more advanced versions of the original M1 Silicon. The M1 Max costs more than the M1 Pro, but it does boast double the GPU cores for demanding graphical tasks, while it also supports double the RAM, up to 64 gigs in total, and that's what I've got packed inside of this gargantuan chassis. Now, I used Apple's original MacBook Pro M1 edition for around a year or so to edit video before I upgraded to the MacBook Pro 16-inch model, and with that original, I experienced non-stop performance issues, stammers, judders, whatnot whenever I was editing video or even editing photos, mostly because I was working with file formats outside of Apple's own, and it really does not like that. Thankfully, you don't have to worry about this startling lack of flexibility with the M1 Max. I do still get the occasional judder or bit of buffering when I'm adding large files to my project timeline, but otherwise the performance is good enough to handle it, and exporting projects is still proper bloody quick. Even apps like GIMP ran absolutely fine here on the MacBook Pro 16 with that M1 Max chipset, which I never thought I would see that on an Apple machine, let's be perfectly frank. And also the MacBook Pro 16 does stay blissfully cool even when it is under extreme pressure, exporting those massive video files and whatnot, and it's whisper quiet the entire time as well, which is a definite advantage over some of its Windows rivals, which have to have massive fans constantly blasting air at those dedicated GPUs. And finally, over 1 year on from the M1's introduction, Silicon support is being offered by a fair few third-party add-ons and apps. And yeah, some third-party apps you will still have to get a bit of Rosetta support on the go if you actually want to run them on an M1 MacBook Pro, which is slightly depressing considering the timescales involved here, but hopefully a few months further down the line that will no longer be a thing. As for macOS Monterey, well, that has been behaving itself thankfully, no crashes or other irksome issues to speak of. Although once again, you do get loaded up with apps that you can't dispense with. I mean seriously, who is paying thousands and thousands of pounds on a fresh new laptop to play virtual bloody chess? Although that said, definitely do not expect to play anything more complicated than virtual chess here on the MacBook Pro 16. My Steam library was culled from almost 400 titles to just under 100 in total, and most of those are really old titles as well. In fact, quite a few of them are my daughter's games. Pajama Sam, Freddy Fish, Spy Fox and such forth. One of the most powerful laptops of 2022, and what can I play on it? A game starring a cartoon f***ing fish. As for storage, Apple offers up a range of options on the MacBook Pro 16, from a measly 512GB SSD up to an 8TB effort, but boy howdy it'll cost you to upgrade. And there's no backseas, so make sure that you've chosen wisely when you hit that buy button. And last up, Apple promises up to 21 hours of battery life from a full charge here on the MacBook Pro 16, which is probably just about true if you dim down the screen brightness to minimum and don't actually touch the thing. However, if you actually use the MacBook Pro 16 for what it's designed for, i.e. complex creative tasks like video editing, well, you'll find that it has the life expectancy of a suicidal lemon. I found over these last few months I can pretty reliably get around 3-ish hours of video editing play on the MacBook Pro 16 before that battery needs a recharge, so any creatives will definitely want to carry the charger around with them full time. So yeah, slotting the M1 Max into this thing, it really seriously downgrades the battery life compared with the original M1 and that MacBook Pro, because yeah, the battery life on that thing was one of the highlights. And yeah, you'll get around 10 hours of use if you're playing around with basic apps or just working out of Chrome or something like that. But then if that's what you're doing, why are you spending £4,000 on a friggin' laptop when you might as well spend less than a tenth of it on a Chromebook? You've got a MagSafe 3 connector for charger, and this snaps into place magnetically, and it's not easily knocked out, but it will disconnect if you accidentally trip over the cable to prevent you yanking this big heavy twat right off your desk. I find it often takes between an hour and a half and 2 hours to get a full charge here on the MacBook Pro 16. You can also charge it up using one of the Thunderbolt ports as well if you want, but that takes absolutely bloody ages, so I wouldn't recommend it. So that right there, in a nutshell, is what I think of the Apple MacBook Pro 16-incher with that M1 Max chipset after using it as my full-time video editing machine for a good few months. And yeah, definitely in terms of the performance, a serious upgrade over that original M1 MacBook Pro. No longer are you severely restricted by what you can do. You don't have to worry about using Apple's specific file formats in order to get respectable performance. The flexibility of it is just magnificent. On the flip side, of course, the MacBook Pro 16-inch is an absolute friggin' beast. You will not want to be carrying this thing around with you, that's for sure. Definitely not lugging it on any flights or anything like that unless you absolutely have to. So I would recommend having a backup to take on the road and just using this thing at home. Then of course there's the fact that the battery life isn't anywhere nearly as good as it used to be on that original M1. And of course the fact that if you want the model with the maximum RAM and everything, it's going to cost you £4,000, which is absolute madness. But anyhow, that's what I think. It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you've been using the MacBook Pro 16-inch with that M1 Max as well, are you satisfied with it, or do you wish you just saved your cash and bought something else instead? Well, definitely leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do plug, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.